Thanks to one of my very generous customers, she donated this machine to me because she's no longer sewing, and she did mention that the machine had been dropped at some stage, but I don't think the damage is too bad. Yeah, this particular machine, I think she said she bought it in Africa. I think she said in Zimbabwe, but I'm not 100% sure. And she travelled, I think, to the UK with this machine and then out to New Zealand later on. So it's been halfway around the world at least. And yeah, so she wanted it to go to a good home, and it's certainly come to a good home here where it'll be appreciated, and I'll clean it up. And I don't really know whether I'll remove any of this here, the labeling, the shipping labeling, things like that. I don't know. It kind of adds to the history of the machine in a way, I think. So I'll probably leave this on here. You'll see there's a bit of tape on the top there. I'll probably remove that there, give the case a clean up. And yeah, so this is like a bent wood type case with a crocodile skin. It's not real crocodile, so don't worry, there were no animals harmed in the creation of this sewing machine case. So that's just a faux crocodile skin, mock crocodile skin on a bent wood type case there, suitcase. So yeah, quite nice. It's let's have a look at the machine itself. It's a 99K, Singer 99K. So these were introduced in 1911 and were made until 1958. So, a good 47-year run there, which is pretty awesome. Inside of the front cover there, we've got the extension table there, wooden extension table. So you can see that this is a hand crank version. In 1921, Singer brought out an optional motor attachment that you could remove this hand crank and attach an electric motor. So that was the first portable electric sewing machine, 1921. And this is it's a 3/4 size of the Class 66. And Class 66, here's my Lotus Flower 1930 Class 66 here. And so you can see there the arm's longer. If we have a look back at the 99K, you'll see that this arm here is slightly shorter. It's 3/4 of the length of that 66 class machine. That is not in the right place there. That little spool pin there should be there. She did mention that the machine had been damaged slightly, and we can see a little bit of damage here. The hinges have lifted out of the case there, the base. Let's sit those back in there. So a little bit of work required to fix this up here. It doesn't look too bad. The general condition of the machine's quite nice. She used it quite a lot apparently, so it's not like immaculate or anything like that, but it's in very good condition. The faceplate here, no sign of any rust or oxidization there. And if we take a look at the serial number here, and I've mentioned this in other videos, but there's an app for your phone called Singer Serial DB. If you go to your store and search for Singer Serial DB, you'll find it there, and you install that, and then you just type in the serial number into the field here. It is a 1954 99K, 45,000 of them made, and I think the date is the commission date. That's 12th of August there. So that's quite a handy little app. There's also a website you can go to. It's got a lot more information than the app has. It tells you all about the commission numbers and just a little bit more detailed information there. A little bit dusty there, I'll clean that up. We can see there's been a modification done here. That looks like the spring has failed, I would say, on the hand crank, the engaging dog there, and that's probably been popping out. So someone's just wrapped wire around there by the look of that, just to stop that from disengaging. That looks good. Sounds good. I haven't oiled it, haven't done anything to it as yet, so it's basically as I got it. Let's have a little look at the bits and pieces. We've got looks like a original Singer oil bottle there, made in Brazil, Singer company, 15 cc's approximately. Still some oil in there. And let's have a wee look. Oh yeah, there's a bit of damage. There's a little bit of damage here. This here needs attention there. I've probably got other bases that, you know, I can replace this here with. We've got a few attachments here. So we look, that's a zip foot, a spare bobbin winder rubber there. That is a quilting, looks like that could be likes of a quilting foot with a guide. We've got the basic hemming binding attachment there, and a few spare bobbins, bits and pieces. So these machines are fairly straightforward. There's not really a lot to show you as far as how to set one up, but I will go through likes of the bobbin winding, threading, and we'll service the machine, I think, as well. So let's do that. First of all, we'll lubricate the hand crank assembly here, and if we turn the crank, you'll see a little oil spot there, a little oil hole. Let's get a little drop of oil into there. If we just swing the machine around a little bit, there's also one here. I think that's, yeah, that's an oil hole there as well. We'll get some oil into there. And you've also got the clutch here, clutch release here, so that when you're winding a bobbin, the entire machine's not turning over. So just, yeah, I think that bobbin winder is going to be borderline. I think that rubber's borderline there, that needs changing. You can see it's not quite gripping the whole way around. Let's just put a very small drop of oil in there, in the bobbin winder. You don't really want to go putting too much in here, because what can happen is the oil can seep through the bearing there and come out of the side of this wheel here and contaminate the rubber there, and it can cause the bobbin winder to slip there on the driving part of the wheel there. Okay. So another place to put oil in is right in behind this clutch here. Just down the back of that would be fine. Down the back of this clutch handle here, this knob here. Get a bit of oil into there. To lubricate this area properly, by rights, you probably should take the hand crank off. There's a bolt down here to remove the hand crank. The added complication with this one here is this mechanism's been tied in with this wire here. That would need to be removed to remove this one. I'm not going to do that at this stage. I don't think that's necessary. Once you get the hand crank off, you can remove the, just loosen the screw on the end of the knob there and undo this clutch knob fully. That comes off, and there's a little washer in behind there that comes off with it. I won't go through that in this video. I've done other videos on how to set those washers properly and adjust them. and then once this bolt and washes off, that whole hand wheel can come off, and then you can like clean the shaft and oil it and put it all back together again. But I think the oil's probably going to get down into there okay. If we just get it down the back there, that's, you know, I think it'll work its way in there. It's quite free anyway. You'll know if this needs lubricating, this area, if you loosen this fully and you turn the hand crank and the machine still turns over, well then that means that the bearing is probably dry down here and binding, and it's causing the machine to, you know, slightly drive. When you've got your machine unthreaded like this, it's no problem to, you know, turn the machine back and forward. It's only if you've got your machine threaded that you would make sure that you always turn the machine in operating direction. That's on this machine. That is if we look in from this angle here on the right side, the wheel turns anti-clockwise, so the top of the wheel comes towards you always. So when your machine's threaded, always turn the machine in operating direction. When there's no thread in the machine, there's no worries going back and forward. I don't see a problem with that. It's quite a good way of getting oil into the machine actually, is, you know, if you're just oiling and you're turning and you know, you don't have to double check which way the machine's turning, that's fine. But it's very good to get into the habit of always turning your machine in the operating direction. And in this case the handle turns clockwise and the hand wheel turns anti-clockwise. So that's the clutch, the hand crank and the bobbin winder lubricated there. And if we have a look in the top here, we've got some oil holes here. There's the little thread stand there that just pops in and out here. So we'll start by oiling this. This is the main bearing here, and then we've got another oil hole down here, and not sure if that one leads anywhere at all. I'd have to have a close look at that, but I mean there's no hurt in putting a little bit of oil. Let's get some oil in there, and then if we come towards the middle of the machine here, more oil down there. So it's a good idea to oil your machine if you're not sure of the history of the machine, if you've just bought it or you've just pulled it out of the cupboard after it's sitting there for quite a while. Just go ahead and oil it. To remove the faceplate here, we just undo the thumb screw here at the bottom of the faceplate, and this screw at the top here, just a flat screwdriver. Hold the faceplate, because if you loosen that without holding the faceplate it'll probably just fall off. That's a slotted hole there, and the faceplate will just pop off like that. There's the slotted hole there, like that, and you can see that it needs a fair bit of cleaning in here. There's a bit of dust and lint in there. Normally when I'm servicing a machine I would use an air compressor to blow all this lint and dust out there, but if you don't have an air compressor, just a little brush here is fine. Just a bit of a brush around to get rid of any dust. I won't go too crazy cleaning this up at the moment, but just to quickly show you the general idea there. Just get in there with the brush, reasonably clean. It's looking okay there. So we need to oil these take-up linkages here, and you might be able to see there's a little hole in these cranks here. So you can see you pretty much want to oil any moving part. So get oil into that hole there, and onto this little bearing surface here. Get oil onto there. Also onto that screw there, and then there's another crank at the back here, another oil hole. That's the needle bar drive crank, that's the top of it, and then the bottom of the needle bar drive crank there. Some more oil, there's another little hole there. Down on the needle bar, the bottom bearing of the needle bar, well actually it's the only bearing on this machine. Some machines, or a lot of machines with this needle bar will come right up through another bearing in the top up here. So quite often there'll be an upper bearing and a lower bearing here, but in this case we've just got the lower bearing. So you may notice also there's a little pointer here, and on this plate here a couple of little marks there. They are the timing marks. I won't go through that in this video, but I'll do a video at some stage showing you how to check and set the timing on a machine like this. Some oil on the lower bearing on the foot bar here, and there's also another bearing in here that needs lubricating. And you'll notice also there's a shaft here going down through the presser bar. So the presser bar is hollow. This shaft here is going down into the presser bar, and inside the presser bar there's a spring, and that's what determines your your presser foot pressure, this pressure here. So here we have the presser foot lifter at the back there. I would put some oil either side of that to get down onto the hinge there. Probably get through there. And also on the top of the lever there's a little cam sort of action there. So I would also just a little drop of oil on there. So when I lift the presser foot there, you may notice that this little black lever here is pushing on a little pin that's sticking out of the back of the tension assembly here. And what that does is it releases the tension on these discs here, so that when you've finished your seam and you've raised your presser foot there, it releases the tension on the thread and allows you to pull the fabric, and the thread pulls through the tension discs without any resistance. Makes it easier to get the work out from under the presser foot there. So that's the tension release mechanism. You can check to see if the tension release mechanism is working just by threading the machine as far as the tensioner here, as you normally would. And if the tension is set correctly, the tensioner, I'll set that to 5. That's midway between the 0 and 9 on the dial here. So that's generally about right. The little indicator is at the top here. So you'll see the little indicator on the top there. I've got it set to about 5. Now, providing the tension is set correctly and has not come out of calibration, that should be providing tension on here. But just note that the presser foot is in the down position at the moment, and that is providing some tension there. And to check that the tension release mechanism is working, you lift the presser foot and that tension should just release there now. So that's nice and easy to pull through there now. And if I put the presser foot down, that's got a decent amount of tension on there, and I can feel that that's probably about right. So the tension release mechanism's working fine there. So we're pretty well done in this area here. So put the cover back on. So normally you would just undo this screw here and push this little lever out of the way there. This one's a little bit damaged, and that allows you to tip the machine back. Now you do have to be careful when tipping the machine back. I'm holding the base down here. If you let the base go, the whole thing will tend to want to tip back like that, and then the case will tend to want to close and maybe close on your fingers there, which isn't a pleasant experience. So be careful of that. What you can do is you could rest the machine on something tall enough at the back here, just to make it easy enough to get in here and clean and oil. But what I'll do is I'll just lift the machine out of the case there, the base, and I can do that because these screws here are missing. The screws, they come up from underneath. There's a couple of holes underneath here that should have screws in them. They come through and they screw into these little hinges here, the bottom of these hinges, but they're missing, so I'll have a look around for some replacements there. So what you can do is you can leave these hinges bolted into the base there and just undo those two screws and pull the machine off its hinges like that, and that allows you to you know, get nice easy access to the machine. Put just a protective piece of cloth down there, so that gives you access to the underside, nice easy access to the underside without you having to worry about it closing up on your fingers. So again, I would use a compressor, air compressor, to get this lint and everything out, but let's say if you don't have one, just a brush is fine. Get as much of the lint and dust and whatnot out as you can. As I say, I'm not going to go too far with that in this video. I'm not going to get too fussy about it. So that's okay. We'll get in from the top too and clean under the plate as well. But while we're here, again, we'll go ahead and oil. So we've got a shaft here. That is the feed. That's the shaft that controls the stitch length, the amount of travel that the feed dogs do. And so we want to lubricate either end of these shaft bearings here. And on the left hand side here, you can see that there's a couple of linkages under here that attach the feed bar. Just get oil onto those. And also this end here, there's a linkage you want to get oil onto. I just put oil sort of either side of the connecting bolt here, and that will soak down and get onto the shaft itself. There's also another sort of a crank here that needs oil. So this crank here, that's the hook drive crank. So I would be tempted to get oil onto that crank up in here. It's a bit difficult. There'll be a top and bottom bearing there. Might get better access through one of the holes in here, maybe, if you took the hand crank attachment off there, the cranker itself. But I'd be tempted to yeah, have a good look down in there with a torch and get oil onto those bearings. Yeah, pretty much oil anything that moves. Sometimes a pair of tweezers is quite handy too, just to get any sort of chunks of lint and dust out. Just clean it as much as you can, really. There's a little roller down here. That's the feed dog rise and fall roller as such. So just oil that little roller, oil this bearing here, get oil onto that one there, and then there's this linkage here. There's little holes there and there, and there's another one for the main bearing. That's the hook bearing, the main hook bearing here, and there'll be one for this crank here as well. Yeah, there's a little oil hole here for that one. You need to turn the machine over so that it comes into position so you can see it. Get a little bit of oil on there. Yeah, these two bearings here, they're fairly important, so just get a decent amount of oil into those. Got quite big holes. These two we've already done. And then there's a linkage down here that would need just a bit of oil on there. So I think I can get oil onto that bottom bearing there. So So that's the underneath section oiled there. I'm pretty sure I got through those oil points. Sometimes it's a bit hard to see from behind the camera, but pretty sure I've got all those. And then we can just tip the machine back up, and if we have a look at the side of things, we'll go ahead and remove the presser foot. It's just raise the presser bar, undo the little thumb screw here, remove the presser foot. You can slide the little access cover over here. I might as well remove the needle while we're there. Now I can see that the clamp's going to fall off there, the needle clamp here. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, that should just fall off like that. Sometimes they have a little grub screw that holds them in position, but anyway, just be careful of that if it does fall off. The adjustment screws on the right hand side when you put it back on there. And then we've got a bobbin there. So you've got this nifty little lever here that flips the bobbin up for you, so you can remove the bobbin. And then go ahead and take this plate off, the throat plate here. And then again you can get your brush and clean around this area. It's pretty clean there. Get your dust out of there. So the important part is in between the feed dog teeth here. The lint and dust and whatnot can compress in between here. So it's quite a good idea just to give that a wee scrape with a pair of tweezers. Something quite narrow to get into that one, even just like an old needle or something like that. Just make sure that's clean in between there, because the dust and lint can compress and compact into those grooves. So what that will do eventually is it'll stop the feed dogs from being able to raise up through the hole properly here. They need to come up through here, and this bar through the on the throat plate here runs down in between here, so if there's compressed lint and whatnot here, it won't be able to come up through the hole here. So just make sure that's really clean there. So this little thread cutter here that sits on the foot bar here, I've noticed that that's dangling down here. It's come off, so that can just be sort of pushed back up into position there. Just work that back up, give it a wee wiggle back and forward. Be careful because that's a cutting edge on the top of that little cutter there, little thread cutter. That's looking pretty clean there. Just a note on this little red pad here. That's an oil pad that often wears out, and this one you can see has worn out, but originally that would have come out and touched the inside of this hook here so that you could soak the pad in oil, and that would keep this hook race here lubricated properly without having to, you know, sort of manually oil, where I'm going to show you in a second back here. It just is a little bit more of a reservoir of oil there, so you don't have to do it so often. But just a wee note there, so you do have to oil in this area reasonably regularly, because that's quite a high wear area. There's an important oil point here. Now I'll swing the machine right around so we're actually looking from behind. So we're looking in from behind here now. So you need to get oil onto this hook here, where it goes through goes through a little race in the bobbin case. So oil onto there, and that's just enough to lubricate that part there. Another important thing to check is that you'll notice that there are little grooves in this hook here in the shuttle. See if I can get you a better angle there. In fact, I might just take this plate here out, and that is done by just lifting, looking at the back still from the back. You lift the inner edge and just push the plate right off its spring there. here's the little spring that holds the plate on, and that spring goes down these little channels either side of the underside of the plate. Just a pair of tweezers or something that's narrow enough to get down into that slot there. Actually just maybe a little screwdriver. Just clear those channels out. They're there to cut any thread that might become jammed. They're quite sharp edges. So if there's a tangle in here and it's causing a jam, that will cut through the thread to help clear it. That's those cleaned up there. So to put this plate back on, it's basically the reverse process of what we did before. This is the edge that sits against the edge of the machine here, and you'll see that there's the little channels that these springs need to go through. So all you need to do is just pop this plate down onto the surface of the slide here, and you'll notice that the left side, looking from the back here, will be raised up. That's sitting on top of the feed dogs at the moment, but you just slide that through, and these little springs will just automatically head into the correct channels there, and then you just push it like that, and it can't come off. The channels don't go right through, so that can't come right off there. So that's it pretty much for, like a basic service. Just need to put the machine back together, put the plate on, two screws. They don't need to be overly tight, just firm. That's that. So to install the bobbin there, the bobbin should run anti-clockwise when you pull the thread off it there. Anti-clockwise like that. And then just pop that straight down into the bobbin case there and hook the thread under this first little slot here. Pull the thread and then come across to the second slot here and head in towards the needle area, and that will drop into the spring as it should, and that's ready to be picked up by the needle thread there. And then we can close the slider here. You'll notice there's a little cutout here, and so that's just there for the bobbin thread to lie through there for when you pick it up there. Stops it from being trapped in between this plate and the throat plate there, and you can actually pull the thread and get a bit of an idea as to what the bobbin thread tension should be, and it's pulling off nice and smoothly. You want that to be pulling off there nice and smoothly. If that's not pulling off nice and smoothly, there's a couple of issues there potentially. Incorrect bobbin. The Singer machines, they do take a specific type of bobbin, and it could be a bent bobbin, buckled, damaged, could have damage around the circumference of it there. Yeah, there's quite a few different reasons for that. So now it's just a matter of putting a brand new needle in. So these are the 2020 Singer needles. Identical system to the Smets or universal type needle 130/705H. I've sort of just brushed on the subject of needles in the previous video, you may have seen that. So these are a round sharp needle point, so these are ideal for woven fabrics. You can also get ballpoint type needles as well. But first of all, we need to get the needle clamp back on there. Make sure that the thumb screw is on the right hand side. Just pop that up as far as it'll go, and you want to install the needle with the flat towards the right hand side. So flat on the right, and just be careful not to damage the needle point on any of these metal surfaces when you're installing it. if you do happen to touch the needle point onto any of these metal surfaces, I would replace the needle. I would get another brand new one, because it will blunt in the needle. Okay, and then just do that up finger tight. That's nice there. I'll find some screws and bits and pieces to replace the missing parts here, but in the meantime I'm just going to sit the machine back into the base without screwing it all back together. You can see there too that it's a bit dusty and grubby in there. I would definitely clean that out. I won't go too far with that today, but I'll be cleaning that out. I will just sit the machine down into here and leave it at that at this stage. Just means that I can't tilt it back, but there's no need to at this stage, just to demonstrate this to you. And then it's just a matter of, I'll probably bring this back around. The spool pin, by the way, is not supposed to be in this hole here. That is an actual oil hole, and this hole here is where the spool pin is supposed to sit there. On this particular model anyway, that's where it's supposed to sit there. So let's thread the machine up and see how it goes. Just put the spool on there, just pop in over that little thread guide there. And when doing this part here, just make sure to be very careful to bring the thread in between the tension discs here. Let's get you a different view there as you're coming down from the top thread guide there. Make sure that the thread goes between the tension discs here. I've seen this sort of thing going on here where you know, not much attention's been paid to where the thread's going, and it goes around the back of the tension discs, and that's providing no tension at all there. And the other one I've seen is the thread going in front of the tension discs here, also not providing any tension at all there. So just make sure to go in between the tension discs here. Make sure the thread pull the thread right up, and you want to come around the back of this spring here. So you come right up, right to this point here where the end of the spring is here, and then come back down, and that should hook over that spring like that. And then you come under this thread guide here, and then you can thread from right to left through the take up lever there. That. Make sure your take up lever is at the top of its travel, and that way you won't have any problems with the thread being pulled out of the needle eye when you start your seam. So then you come down here, there's another thread guide here, get you a close look at that one, and that one you can just thread from back to front, just pull the thread into it. It's a little one-way thread guide there, and then you come from that guide to this guide here, just flip in behind there, that's just come in from the front there, and then we thread the needle left to right. Just like so. So to pick up your bobbin thread, you would hold your thread out to the right hand side here. You don't need to hold it tight or anything, just loosely hold it and turn the machine one revolution in operating direction, so that this lever here, the take up lever, goes down and up back to its top position, and then you can pull the thread, and that will draw the bobbin thread up just like that there, and then you can pull that through. I'll attach the presser foot there. That's just a matter of, get you a close look there. Now be careful of the needle again as well. You bring the needle up. So you come in from the right hand side with the presser foot at a 90-degree angle there, and you just hook it over the little screw here, just like that, and spin it. You might have to loosen this screw to allow it to do that, and once it's on there you can just tighten that up like so and put your thread under the press foot there and out the back of the machine, and you're all set to go. I'm not sure I showed you with the hand crank handle here, there's a little lever here, little knob. You pull that back and that allows you to position the handle here into so that you can get the case on. It just tucks it out of the way there. You can bring it down like that, and when you're ready to sew you can just swing that back out, and that will just flip in behind this little stopper here and stop this from coming out while you're sewing. So there, we're all set to go. Piece of fabric here, we'll just get the take up lever right up to its top position there, press foot down, and you can just, if you want to do a few manual stitches, you can just manually turn the hand wheel here, so that's quite good for giving you a lot of control. And we've got stitch length here. We have stitches per inch, I would say that is. So at the bottom of the scale we've got 6 stitches per inch right up to 30 stitches per inch, and if we go past the 0 point we'll get reversing for back tacking. So let's say we'll go for about 12 stitches per inch there, and then we can start cranking here. Just increase that to 8 stitches per inch there, it's a little bit tight. And then we can turn a 90-degree corner there by bringing the needle bar down to its lowest position and just raise it slightly in operating direction, and then lift the press foot, turn the fabric. If you're not sure after you've stopped and you go to start again, you're not sure which way the handle is supposed to be turned, you can just turn the hand wheel in operating direction, and that gives you an idea what direction this handle here should be going. So you can start off like that if you like, and then just carry on. And when you finish your seam, bring your take up lever right to the top there, and then raise your presser foot and pull your fabric out, trim, and there we go, looking very nice. These are really good for they do a really nice stitch, a beautiful looking stitch. These are also really good for heavy weight, so like the hemming jeans and things like that. These are brilliant. If you're hemming jeans, you put a decent jeans needle in there, go for a slightly heavier thread, and away you go, and you've got plenty of control, and it'll just cut through that like a hot knife through butter. These are really good solid machines. The only thing I didn't show you was the bobbin winding. I will replace the bobbin winder rubber here. The bobbin winder rubber can be changed fairly easily. You just spin the old one off. Might be easier to engage it. Spin the old one off. It's just a matter of pushing the winder rubber to the outside of the pulley there. Maybe try disengaging now, and that should just pop out like that. And I've got a brand new replacement. You can still buy these. They should be easily available. Part number is 15NL. It looks like that's what's labelled on here, Singer. So come in from behind here and then just flip, maybe engage there, so that I'll just engage that, might allow it to get past this point here a bit easier, and then just push that back on, give it a bit of a wiggle there, and there we go, bobbin winder rubber replaced. So now I can show you how to wind a bobbin. So what you can do is you can leave your machine threaded, and we'll take that thread off there and replace the thread there, and because we've got this handy clutch here, we loosen that. That means that the machine's not going to turn over whilst the needle's threaded, and because there's no fabric in the machine here. If you turn the machine over while there's no fabric in the machine and it's threaded, it will just cause a big tangle. So what you can do is use the clutch to disengage the machine itself, and now we're just in basically bobbin winding mode. But you can see there that the bobbin winder is not actually doing anything at this stage. So what we want to do is first of all, we'll get another bobbin. I'm just using this bobbin here, it's already got thread on it, but we can just go over the top of that. You'll notice there's a little hole here. Let's get you a closer look here. There's a little hole here in the bobbin that lines up with this little sprig here. It's coming out of the bobbin winder here. So that just pushes on and lines up. Make sure that that little sprig goes into the hole, the bobbin there. And then you can, it's probably a good idea to just unhook this needle thread from here temporarily, because you don't want it sort of tangling and interfering. We'll come across here. This is the bobbin winder, and then down to this thread guide here, where we come through the back here as far as I know, and up through that. I think that's how it goes. I'd have to have a close look at the manual, but I'm pretty sure that's, just consulting the manual here. It's quite hard to see actually in the manual, but it looks to me like the thread comes to the front. I just had to remind myself how this is threaded. It comes to the front here and then hooks around and comes out the front again, like so, and then wrap the thread, I'd say a good half a dozen times around the bobbin there, and I find just hold back on the bobbin and snap the thread off like that. Should be enough to get us going there, and then engage the bobbin winder and turn in operating direction, and then we're all set to wind. And there we go. You can burn some calories at the same time. It's quite handy. There we go. Bobbin wound, and then you can just remove the thread that you've used for the bobbin winding. Just rethread, just set the needle thread back on here, making sure that it goes back over that thread guide there, and then re-engage the clutch there, and then we can, you might find that the machines sort of drop down, and the needle bars drop back down just because of the weight of the balance of things. So just hold the thread lightly and turn in operating direction until the take-up lever comes back up again, and then we're all set to go again there. Just like that. The manual's very nice. Little compact little manual here. The cover's coming off this one, I'll fix that up. 99k sewing machine. trademark with the Singer Manufacturing Co. So goes through a bit about the hand attachment there. Oil goes through the relationship of types of fabric, thread and needle sizes, and machine stitches to the inch. So quite handy information in here. Types of fabric, thread size, needle size, and then the stitches per inch. You know, it's got a stitches per inch for inside seam and for top stitching. So there you go, handy information there. The needle, installing the needle, upper threading, removing the bobbin, threading, winding the bobbin, engaging the bobbin winder, replacing the bobbin, under threading, preparing for sewing, start sewing, regulating stitch length, slightly different. This is a slightly different model by the look of it. It's got a little indicator out to the left there and a different type of knob there, whereas this one has this sort of thing here. So this must be to get you a little bit more sort of accurate. I think what this could be good for is you can lock the screw down on a certain stitch per inch, and then when you do a back tack, it will automatically stop at the appropriate stitch length on the reverse as well to match the forward stitch length, so that you get a good back tack. Whereas this one is sort of just hold your tongue in the right place. You know, you might get it right, you might not, and so there's probably a little improvement. This will be a later model, I would say. Goes through setting the thread tension, the presser foot pressure. I'll go ahead and free this one up. Regulating the tension, needle tension, bobbin tension. Look, it even goes into fully disassembling the tension assembly. So that's quite handy. Good if you want to clean, you know, it's good to take this apart and give it a good clean from time to time. So it shows you how to do all that yourself. Pretty handy. Quite detailed little photos here. Very nice, easy to follow photos. I've got a funny feeling that these hand drawn. If anyone knows about this sort of illustration method, I'd be really keen to know, because they're almost photorealistic, but not quite. They've got an illustrated look about them. I love these little diagrams. I've always been fascinated with these and how beautiful they are, and you know, very descriptive and very clear, unlike some of the manuals of today. And cleaning, replacing the bobbin case, so maybe if there was damage or something like that. Yeah, there's going through how to replace the slide plate there. The belt shifter, that's for the treadle machine. This is obviously not the treadle. Sewing suggestions, breaking, so this is like troubleshooting. You know, breaking of needle thread, breaking of needles, breaking of bobbin thread, slip stitching, skipping of stitches, slip stitching sometimes it's called, or mis-stitching. The best is the cheapest. Use Singer sewing machine oil on the machine. So it must have been quite cheap to buy. Instructions for using the attachments. So here's a neat little guide with a hemmer, hemming, felling, lace, attaching lace, applying lace. More, that's the adjustable hemmer, one there, and then we've got a wide hem here, pretty neat. Binder, and binding inside curves, edge stitcher. So is that sort of for like overlocking type stitching, and it'll be for attaching ribbon and whatnot, I guess. Yeah, lace joining lace, piping with the edge stitcher, applying bias folds, making a wide hem. Pretty neat. Lots of information in these books. Tucking, gathering, the ruffling foot. So all these attachments would have come with the machine. I don't have them for this one, although I do have attachments. Pipe a ruffle. Pleating. Group pleating. So you can pleat in groups here. Pretty handy information. Darning or embroidery. There's a special attachment for it there. The importance of using Singer needles and Singer oil. Well, I do both for mine. So, and there's a little table of contents there. So yeah, pretty neat. On the back cover, the improper placing or renewal of the trademark Singer or any other of the trademarks of Singer Manufacturing Company, all of which are duly registered trademarks, on any machine that has been repaired, rebuilt, reconditioned or altered in any way whatsoever outside a Singer factory or an authorised Singer agency is forbidden. For your protection, always look for the famous red S and Singer trademarks for authorised sales and service. When your machine needs servicing, call your Singer Sewing Centre and be sure of warranted Singer parts and service. See address and classified telephone directory listed only under Singer Sewing Machine Company. It's showing its age, alright, eh? So that's about it for this one. I hope you found that helpful. Just a look at the 99K here. Keep an eye out for more videos. I'm quite interested to try some of these buttonhole attachments. And yeah, a shout out to a good friend of mine, Hazel. She helped me go through some of my attachments and bits and pieces, and we had a ball just going through, looking at what I had, and she brought some bits and pieces around as well, and they're all sort of Singer compatible type attachments really. And I found this Greased Products rotary buttonholer that I purchased recently, and I'd like to go through at some stage in upcoming videos and attach this to likes of this machine here, for instance, and you know, just see what sort of buttonhole we can get out of it. So thank you very much for watching, and keep an eye out for more videos.